Hey, I'm back. It was a pretty crazy April. There was the NPR video, which took like 2 weeks of planning to shoot, and then a week of like spreading it around. So like 3 weeks total, just being like NPR, NPR. And then I recently started doing private events, like corporate events and like just private parties and stuff, where I just play music for 3 hours. And I had a lot going on. But this is a video that I've wanted to make for a bit, which doesn't necessarily focus on one area of practice, but rather how to develop a practice routine, or like a practice regimen. And so a couple months ago I made a video that was like 3 ways to practice better, and that was pretty well received. This is getting into a little bit more specifics. So I wanted, and I'm going to do it by showing you my practice regimen. Maybe it would give those of you who are looking for ways to develop better daily practice regimens an idea of what to prioritize and how to organize it. So I know I talk a lot in the beginning of these videos. Let's just jump into it. So to get things started, I usually go through a series of exercises, or warm-ups rather, to get ready for whatever it is I'm going to be working on that day. And so we're going to start with this 3-chord exercise that I like to do, where I start up at the 9th fret, and then work my way all the way down to the 1st fret, and then come back up. There are 3 types of chords that I go through. It's a minor 7, into a 9, into a major 7. And we're going to walk through them little by little. I'll have tabs provided at the bottom for you. I usually do my warm-ups at around 90 BPM. And this one I take a little slow. I start off with an F sharp, minor 7. We go into an F sharp 9, into a B major 7. So that's, and those shapes are mirrored all the way down the fretboard until you reach the 1st fret. So the exercise, or rather I play the exercise like this. See the fretboard okay? All right. The reason why I stylize it on the way down, I kind of play it like it's almost like a little jam, is because when I play gigs where I'm essentially just playing for 3 hours, providing background music to whatever the event is, I open up with that exercise. And a lot of exercises that have pretty chords like that can be used and dragged out as great improv pieces. So say you're trying to work on your soloing, record that piece, loop it, work on your scales on top of it. And so I stylize it to make it a little bit more exciting to play. Certainly it's a nice exercise to start with. And when I reach the bottom of the fretboard, I go all the way back up to where I started. So let's go ahead and walk through that. The next exercise that I like to do is one that I picked up from John Petrucci's Rock Discipline DVD. For those who are looking to get into really brutal exercises that will be amazing for your playing, but just aren't very enjoyable to listen to. At least the first few that he shows in the video. There are some in there that are really cool. They're all really cool. There are some in there that sound pleasant. This video is a great go-to. Anyway, this is, I think, one of the first warm-ups he shows in the video. you just kind of make a diagonal chord shape. So essentially, if you were starting at the 12th fret, index finger on the 12th of the D, middle on the 13th of the G, ring on the 14th of the B, and pinky on the 15th of the high E, and you go, sounds great, right? And then you invert your middle and ring, so your middle finger goes to the 13th fret on the B, and your ring finger goes to the 14th fret on the G. Then you invert your index and pinky, so your index finger comes down to the 12th fret on the high E, whereas your pinky goes to the 15th fret on the D. And then your middle and ring switch again, going back to their original fret positions. And you do that all the way down the neck. And I used to do this exercise relatively slow. So again, the metronome's at 90 BPM right now, and I used to go. Giving myself about a beat in between each chord. But lately I've been looking to do it a little bit faster, and so I just kind of want to show you how I do it as of late. This is much more of a mechanics-driven exercise than anything else. But you do have some nice chords in there. That one's not so great. The second one is okay. And the third one I think sounds pretty nice too. If you were to do it a little bit lower on the neck, that's way better. And then the next one I go to is a minimal movement exercise. I made my first guitar tutorial video on this, and so I'm just going to walk through those exercises for you. I'll put the link down to that original video in the description below. So the first one is based around picking, while also maintaining minimal movement with your left hand, and I play them as eighth notes now. In the original video, I recommended playing them as quarters and even halves. And I also recommended playing them at slower speeds, but right now this is me doing it at 90 BPM as eighth notes. From there, I go into a legato version of it, where I am essentially alternate picking with my right hand. Again, it's legato, so I'm not really alternate picking, but every stroke that I do to start a line, I go in the opposite direction. My left hand is doing a similar shape to what I just did, but here, we'll just take a look. And then the next one I do is an arpeggio shape. And again, minimal movement, and really helps you focus on your arpeggio form. Here we go, eighth notes. And then what I'll tend to do is, after doing them at 90, I'll try to push myself, and I'll do them again at 100. And this doesn't always go that well, but let's see how it goes today. so far so good. Okay, last one. Okay. Now we come back down to 90. The next one I like to do is a cool finger independence exercise, utilizing both the major and minor scale. You are alternate picking every note as usual, and I also made a video about this exercise, so I'll put a link to it down in the description below. But essentially you run through the major and minor scale, and every 3 notes you go back to the second note in the previous pattern and start again and progress to the next note in the scales. So slowly it's and then backwards. So I do these exercises at 90 BPM as eighth notes, and then I shoot for 16ths. And results vary. Sometimes I have to slow it down when I want to do 16ths. And that's not a problem, because as long as I'm able to play it at 16ths at a certain speed, that means I can begin to slowly increase the speed at which I can comfortably play them at 16ths until I can reach the higher intervals, like with anything else. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we speed it up. Then we do the exact same thing with the minor scale. Since we're already riding fast, I just like to go for it. So once that's done, we go up to 100. This normally sounds like garbage. I'm not planning on doing much better, but hopefully the eighth notes will sound pretty good. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, here we go. Oh, terrible. Okay, minor scale. So what I like to do after that finger independence exercise is I move on to my arpeggios. I start off doing three string arpeggios, both descending and ascending, and then after I do those as eighth notes, I move on to them as 16th notes, and I try to throw in little additions at the end of each pattern. So let's go ahead and get started. So we start with a basic minor pattern, just into major, Now, there's a new pattern that I've been integrating into this. It's one of the patterns that I demonstrated in my beginning tutorial for sweep picking, or sweep picking. And it goes like this. It's one that I don't really practice all that much. I haven't been using it very much in the songs that I've been playing, so my form is still a little sloppy when executing it. I'm not 100% comfortable going to 16th notes with it yet, but I just wanted to show you it's something that I have been working in there. And so after I complete my minor and majors descending patterns, both as 8ths and 16ths, we go in the opposite direction. And again, I've been doing that third pattern as well. I'm a little bit more comfortable with the ascending version of that pattern as opposed to the descending. After that, we move on to 5-string patterns, which I'm going to make a separate video on, but again, this is just going through my usual practice regimen. Typically start at the 12th fret with a basic major pattern. And what I do is I try my best to connect the major pattern to a minor pattern, to another major pattern, to a 6-string major pattern based off of a bar chord, all the way up at the 17th fret. So I go to the 12th, the 14th, the 15th, and the 17th on the E. Starting on the A, we go into then we step it up and we go to 16ths. That was a little bit better than I was expecting on a first try. Normally I have to run that a couple times, try my best to get it consistent, so I'll do it about 2 or 3 times without making any mistakes. That way I know it's a success, so maybe I'm getting a little bit better. And then I do my descending patterns. And like I said earlier, I'm not that comfortable with my descending patterns as opposed to my ascending, something I definitely need to work on. But let's go ahead and walk through it. Now let's speed it up. Yeah. That one I always have a little bit of trouble with. My hand tends to curve over here. I'm working on that, but it's supposed to go. Those are my warm-ups, those are my exercises, and maybe some of you think they're cool, maybe some of you think like I was doing that 6 years ago, that's old news to me. I don't know, whatever. This is the stuff that I'm doing right now. I wasn't doing this 6 months ago, and I would hope that every guitar player out there actively evolves their warm-up practice routine before they get to playing whatever it is they're working on every time. So like after this, I'm gonna hop right into the songs that I want to cover this month. One song that I was supposed to cover last month. Sorry patrons, I'll make it up to you, I promise. Crazy month. And yeah, if you like what you saw, go on and hit that subscribe button and hit the little bell so you get a notification every time I put something out. And if you want to contribute more directly to the channel, head on over to my Patreon at patreon.com/DaveMuto. Sorry, I'm stretching my arm. where for as little as $1 a month, you can have a say on what kind of content I put out, be it what type of tutorial videos I put out, what songs I cover. Some of the higher tiers are entitled to demos of tracks that I'm working on, or information on plugins that I've created for my recording purposes. A lot more in-depth info and just material as to what goes into making this channel and to making my music goal endeavors a thing. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and I'll see you next video. Bye, everybody.